إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد فإن كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Tonight again Ibn al-Qayyim رحمه الله يقول: الوصول إلى المطلوب موقوف على هجر العوائد وقطع العوائق. فالعوائد السكون إلى الدعة والراحة والراحة وما ألفه الناس واعتادوه من الرسوم والأوضاع التي جعلوها بمنزلة الشرع المتبع، بل هي عندهم أعظم من الشرع، فإنهم ينكرون على من خرج عنها وخالفها ما لا ينكرون على من خالف ربما كفروه أو بدعوه وضللوه أو هجروه وعاقبوه لمخالفة تلك الرسوم وأماتوا لها السنن ونصبوها أندادا صلى الله عليه وسلم يوالون عليها ويعادون. فالمعروف عندهم ما وافقها والمنكر ما خالفها. وهذه الأوضاع والرسوم قد استولت عليها طوائف من بني آدم من الملوك والولاة والفقهاء والصوفية والفقراء والمتطوعين والعامة، فربي فيها الصغير ونشأ عليها الكبير واتخذت سننا، بل هي أعظم عند أصحابها من السنن، والواقف معها محبوس والمتقيد بها منقطع. عم بها المصاب وهجرت لأجلها السنة والكتاب. من استنصر بها فهو عند الله مخذول، ومن اقتدى بها دون كتاب الله وسنة رسول الله فهو عند الله غير مقبول. وهذا أعظم الحجب والموانع بين العبد وبين النفوذ إلى الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. رحمه الله, in this hikmah and in this reminder, he is talking about what he calls al-awaiq and what he calls al-awaiq, and he will talk also about al-awaiq. Then he starts with al-awaid, and al-awaid معتاد عليه الناس. People got accustomed. But what he's emphasizing in this reminder is those habits and those customs that are go against the Quran and the Sunnah, and how some people got stuck with them. They too much with them. What he's saying, they have adopted the way of their life. They have adopted them more important than the Sunnah, the Sharia and so they might criticize you if you don't follow them, their habits, but they will give no care and no concern if you were to go against the Sharia. They don't care about that. But when it comes to their customs, when it comes to their habits, they are so willing to fight you for them. Actually, if you criticize them or you tell them this is right or what they're doing is wrong, we thought ما وجدنا أو ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا. This is what we found our parents doing. Now we want to change it. And this is this type of people, one of the hardest people to change. Those who grow up accustomed to a habit and accustomed to a custom or a bid'ah. To change, because they are raised, and these bid'ah and these customs infiltrate every single cell of their body, their mind. So it's very difficult for them to give it up, because if they think, if I'm going to give it up, I'm giving great good, and I'm giving a lot of things that I've done in the past, and all that has no weight, if I admit and I confess that it's not something that will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it's very important to get over this. And these are the al-awa'id that he's talking about, rahimahullah. وَمَا أَلِفَهُ النَّاسُ وَاعْتَادُوهُ مِنَ الرُّسُومِ وَالْأَوْضَاعِ الَّتِي جَعَلُوهَا بِمَنْزِلَةِ الشَّرْعِ الْمُتَّبَعِ. As I said, they have adopted these habits and these customs as if it's deen, and as it's subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. But the deen itself, you find them away from it. So you find him so much into some of the bid'ah and some of the shirkiyat, so much into a habit like sacrificing to the graves. And this is not something that we don't do or people don't do. This is something very common in the Muslim world. Wherever you have come from, you find people who practice these things. He's so diligent, and he's so jealous, and he's so insisting on practicing these things. ذبح عند القبور, but in salah, يستهين بها. Salah, he will let time come out, and he will not be sorry for that. And actually, maybe the time of the salah will come out while he's practicing this shirk, because he's busy with something that he thinks it's better than the salah. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So that is what he's talking about and what he's referring to. So he said, فَإِنَّهُمْ يُنْكِرُونَ عَلَى مَنْ خَرَجَ عَنْهَا وَخَالَفَ مَا لَا يُنْكِرُونَ عَلى مَنْ خَالَفَ صَرِيحَ الشَّرْعِ. They criticize those who go against these habits and these customs, but not in a way that they criticize the people who go against the Shar. They are so tough, and so serious and so hard on the people who go against their customs. But the people of al-bid'ah, they don't talk about them. The people of shirk, that's if they're not, it's not, they don't talk about them. That's why in Islam, the people, as the Prophet ﷺ said, this ummah will be divided. You find that the people of al-bid'ah don't talk about the other people of bid'ah. You hardly see a Shi'i talking about a Sufi. It's very rare to find a Sufi talking about a Shi'i. And actually, the Sufi will be quoting from the books of the Shia without consideration for any authentication. And before I came across a quote for one of the leaders of Sufiya in America. And his quote is on Islam, under Islamic quotes. The first quote was the Prophet ﷺ hadith. Second quote was Ali radiyallahu anhu. Third quote was Ibn Arabi. Okay, Ibn Arabi, that a lot of the ulama of Islam talked about his kufr. And if you look at the quote, you find the lack of the understanding of the fundamentals and the basics of Islam. But when they follow people like that, that's what happens. When the quote says, everything is just imagination, and only Allah is the truth. This is lack of the understanding of the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khalaqana. خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. We are real here. We're not imagination. If we were imagination, then what's the point of heaven and hell? Not everything imagination, and everything is allegorical, or whatever they call it. Allegorical. Allegorical just imagination. Just figurative. And we heard that from one of their heads on about Hur al-Ain. About al-Hur in Jannah, he said, when he was interviewed on TV, he said it's only figurative. The word he used, allegorical. Figurative. It's just to encourage the Muslim. Doesn't really exist. That's what it means. So the point, so his quote, then come his quote. Okay? And this is a very famous quote. That the deen is naql and aql. It's fine. Naql, the revelation, and aql is the intuition or intellect. He said there are people who only stuck with the naql. So those we call them يعني نقل mockery and سخرية and استهزاء of the people who call for the dalil. That's what it is. Looks funny, but it's not. It's hems walems wagams. It's slandering and backbiting and mockery. He's referring to the people who stands up for his bid'ah. And they tell him, what you're doing is not right. But we don't see him criticizing the Shia. We don't see him criticizing other groups, and he's belonging into Sufiyya. You don't find Ahl al-Bid'ah criticizing each other. But they come on Ahl al-Sunnah and the people who call for the dalil and the hadith. We want to do it the way the Prophet ﷺ did it, and these become their first enemy before the Jews and the Christians. They join the Jews and the Christians. Same person who stands in a Jewish synagogue, and he says the Jews claim to have the right God, and the Christians claim to have the right God, and the Muslims claim to have the right God, and everyone is monopolizing God. Everyone, including Muslims. We monopolizing God. We want to claim God for ourselves. Ya Jahil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ وَمَنْ يَتَّخِذْ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ ثَالِثُ ثَلَاثَةٍ. We monopoly. You put us in the same category with the Jews and the Christians and the kuffar. Jahl and lack of aqidah and lack of wala and bara and lack of the right understanding of the fundamental and the creed of Islam. Yet people point to him as a scholar, as one of the big ulama of America. Knucklehead, making fun of people who say hadith, who say قال Allah, قال رسول. طيب, I want to ask him a question. If you have a naql and you have your intellect as Mu'tazila and all these people, and in naql you think it's contradictory to al-aql, which one you take? You have an authentic hadith in Bukhari, and your intellect, your personal intellect, cannot comprehend how this hadith can be true because of your limited thinking. Which one you going to take? If you say you're going to take al-aql, then you have rejected the revelation because of your limited mind. And if you say you're going to take al-naql over al-aql, we say you're knucklehead too. So they put themselves in positions that لا يعلمها يعني إلا الله. So we say the deen of Allah, قال الله قال رسول, وما سواهما قول الشياطين. But today you find people, you say Allah, you say the messenger, they attack. You say the Sahaba, they slaughter. You say الأئمة, they say you're backward. Who you want us to follow? The understanding of al-mustashriqeen and the westerner of Islam. You find a person going to a secular university and he graduates with PhD in Islam. Then he comes Imam. Okay? Imam. His professors throughout the way of his masters and PhD are non-Muslims. Which way you think they instilled in his heart about Islam? What kind of Islam? For real. And he comes to the manabir and becomes Imam and becomes, if he's eloquent, then haddith wala haraj, and he starts teaching the Muslims these ideas. So you find the Muslims who listen to him are taken out of their deen without even knowing. Because the westerner and the kafir will not teach you the Islam that Muhammad ﷺ was. That is impossible. Impossible. Because if he would have been Muslim. He would have not accepted to live his life as kafir. If he would have taught you and invited to the way that Muhammad ﷺ did. But someone memorized the Quran, and someone knows thousands of hadith, and someone who reads thousands of books about Islam and stays kafir, I don't expect guidance from him. So very important to understand these things and not to fall into. A lot of us got stuck with the fame. If someone is famous, we're going to hear what he has to say. We're going to listen. La. You have hadith. You have قال Allah, قال Rasul. That is the criteria. Huh? But again, you find people who are going to fight you for that. إن قلت قال الله قال رسوله همزوك همز المستكبر المتعال. أو قلت قال الصحابة والأولو تبع لهم بالقول والأفعال. أو قلت قال الآل آل محمد صلى عليه الله أحسن آل. أو قلت قال الشافعي وأحمد وأبو حنيفة والإمام الغالي. ها? You tell them Allah, Rasul, Sahaba, Al al-Bayt, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Ahmad, Malik. They don't care. طيب, what you gonna take your ilm from? طيب, all these people we get, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all these people, including the Prophet, including Abu Bakr and Umar and the four Imams, we put them aside. We're not going to take. What you want me to take from? ويقول قلبي قال لي عن سره عن سري عن صفاء أحوالي. But did you understand what I just said? He tells you, I take from my heart. My heart has told me استفتي قلبك يا أمة لعبت بدين نبيها كتلاعب الصبيان في الأوحال. حاشا رسول الله ينطق بالهوى تلك إذا حكومة الضلال. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam does not speak out of how. You find him والله your heart ينفطر, your heart breaks into pieces when you find someone of no worth standing on TVs on فضائحيات, these فضائيات and these satellites. Now the satellites bring anyone, من هب ودب, anyone can talk. You find him, you look at him, والله you look at the people of knowledge and the people of ilm, just looking at them, if you turn the volume down and you look at them, you feel at peace, you feel comfortable. And some, you look at him and you say أعوذ بالله منك, شياطين الإنس, شيطان, والله. You see him like our Egyptian brother said, baltagi. He looks like what is baltagi? Like the way he moves his head, the way he moves his hands. And what is he talking about? He is destroying, he thinks he is destroying Bukhari. Taking hadith after hadith from Bukhari. This doesn't make sense, garbage. This doesn't make Bukhari. You found Bukhari. One of them, when he was who talked about Bukhari, they brought him on one of the Arabic channels, and they told him, and the host was very intelligent. He told him, before we start talking about why you criticize this hadith, can you tell us when Bukhari was born and when Bukhari died? So people know what period we're talking about. So he was about 10 years off. Doesn't even know. And when you talk about hadith, you better know about these things. You better, because when you have a chain of so-and-so heard it from so-and-so, heard it from so-and-so, one of the very first thing you look at, they all look trustworthy. They all look great names. But one of them says, I heard it from this, and this person died before he was born. How did he hear it from him? In his dreams? Right? So when you criticize a hadith and start saying weak and this and that, you better know these things. These are fundamentals in ilm al-hadith, mustalah al-hadith, and for al-muhaddithin. Alright, let's hear what he's going to say about Bukhari. So everything to him it doesn't make sense. But this does not make sense. Will your mind accept it? So I said, La ilaha illallah Mu'tazili. Mu'tazila, this is how Mu'tazila group, and maybe they don't call themselves Mu'tazila today, but they still have the same ideology. Everything is in mind. العقل قبل النقل. I use my intellect. If you give me any hadith, even the clear understanding of the ayat, if it does not make sense to me, I will reject. He won't dare to reject the ayah, but he will reject the clear understanding of it. Then he will start telling you, yeah, this is what it looks like, but it has ma'na batini. There is internal meaning behind it. You have to read between the lines. This Quran was revealed to everyone. But if you can't read between the lines, what's about the guy who down the street who can't read between the lines? You understand? So once the people go away from al-hadith and from the dalil, they come with the ajaib, with the weirdest thing. من تكلم في غير فنه جاء بالعجائب. So you always find the people of al-bid'ah stuck. They can't get anywhere. Okay? They can't get anywhere with their bid'ah, because there is no dalil to support it. And usually their dalils to do the bid'ah is the same dalil that is used against them to destroy their bid'ah. Usually. Okay? So it's very important that we understand what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said. So he's talking about people who are so zealous and so fanatic about their own beliefs, about the way they were raised, about what their parents used to do, about the way they worship, the way they pray, the way. If the hadith, if the dalil supports your way, we say fine. Variety. If the hadith supports. But when what you're doing is clearly against the hadith, you're going to still argue? So those people you need to be aware of and stay from such behavior. Okay? So it's very important to understand this fact. So he said, وهذه الأوضاع والرسوم قد استولت عليها طوائف من بني آدم من الملوك. He talks about these behaviors and these close-mindedness for certain behaviors. قل الله سبحانه وتعالى قل إن كان آباؤكم وأبناؤكم وإخوانكم وأزواجكم وعشيرتكم وأموال اقترفتموها وتجارة تخشون كسادها ومساكن ترضونها أحب إليكم من الله ورسوله وجهاد في سبيله فتربصوا حتى يأتي الله بأمره والله لا يهدي القوم الفاسقين. Allah in this ayah just brings it down to the simplest words. Allah says, if your parents, and when we say parents, that's al-asl, where you came from, and that includes all your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, everyone. Aba'ukum wa abna'ukum, and your offspring, your kids, wa ikhwanukum, your brothers, wa nisa'ukum, azwajukum, your wives, your spouses, wa ashirat, and your tribe, your people, where you come from, wa amwalun iqtaraftumuha, and money you made, your wealth, wa tijaratun takhshawna kasada, and business that you're afraid it will go down or you will lose, wa masakinu tardawna, and places that you accept to live in, houses, palaces, whatever, under the bridge. ترضون أحب إليكم من الله ورسوله, more dear to you or dearer to you than Allah and the Messenger, and struggling and fighting في سبيل الله, فتربص, wait. These things more beloved to you than me, Allah says, and than my Messenger, and than my jihad, wait until Allah strikes. حتى يأتي الله بأمره, until Allah inflicts, whether in this dunya or in the akhirah. In this dunya with the humiliation and degradation and insult and poverty, and in the akhirah with punishment. Wait. Allah is warning you, Allah is threatening you. Wait. تربصوا. You stick to them. Honor yourself with these things. Who you're going against. So be aware of that, and learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam, and learn from the prophets of Allah, and learn from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. My prayer and my sacrifice and my life and my death for Allah. And the only way you can make these things for Allah is if you follow the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says, وَأَمَّا الْعَوَائِقُ فَهِيَ أَنْوَاعُ الْمُخَالَفَاتِ ظَاهِرَهَا وَبَاطِنَهَا. We talked about العوائد, Now he's talking about العوالق. العوالق, the thing that gets stuck. So he said العوائق أنواع المخالفات ظاهرة وباطنة فإنها تعوق القلب عن سيره إلى الله وتقطع عليه طريقه. العوائق, عوائق comes later. العوائق, the obstacles from sins. Obstacles are the sins. Your sins are obstacles. These عوائق will hinder your heart to reach its goal. تخيل, imagine, your heart is someone who's running toward the finishing line. They will put obstacles in front of this heart. These obstacles are nothing but violations and sins, the haram. So the more you commit haram, the more obstacles you're putting in front of your heart. You see, sometimes the obstacles are too close that there is no way you can jump over both of them at the same time, or at two different times. Once you jump over the first one, you don't have enough energy to pick you up over the next one. So you fall, you break your neck. You might not even be able to get up. The more sins, the more obstacles you're putting in front of your heart to reach its goal, its finishing line. And the goal is Allah. The goal that everyone is seeking is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the more sins, as the Prophet ﷺ said, when you commit a sin, black dot will be placed on your heart. With forgiveness, with mercy, with asking for tawbah and all that, and forgiveness, gets erased. But you commit a sin, a dot. You commit another sin, another dot. You commit a third sin, another dot, until the heart is covered and engulfed with this ma'asi. قلوبنا غلف. Okay? قلوبنا غلف. أو ران على قلوبهم. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم. الران يعني this coverage of the heart that seals the heart so it does not see anymore. So imagine someone who's blindfolded, his eyes blindfolded, and you tell him run, and you put obstacles in front of him. He can't even jump over the first one. So it's very important to be aware of that. Even though the blind person Allah has given him the sense to distinguish, to know if there is a hole in front of him, somehow he avoids it. Have you seen a blind person crossing the street? It's amazing. Okay? Allah gives him. And some people who have two eyes, maybe three eyes, and they cross the eye, alright, they cross the street and they get hit. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani, these are measurements that if we're going to measure it to ours, it doesn't make sense. Then where is our friend who says, يعني, those who stick to the dalil are knucklehead or knucklehead? Taqillah. The people of ilm and the people of knowledge and the people who claim to have the guidance, don't make mockery of other Muslims. Especially if they know deep in their heart that they're calling for the truth. And we assume you do. And if you don't, then you're ignorant. Someone says, let's follow the hadith, let's follow the Quran, let's follow the revelation. You make fun of him. This guy is stupid. Because knucklehead means what? Stupid. Stupid. Yani, you don't know what you're doing. Taqillah. Okay? So it's very important. Yani, those people, yani, the measurements, everything naql, everything, or everything aql, you will not find the truth. Just like the teacher who came, they said this before, he came to the student, and he's one of those. He thinks with the same mentality. Everything, intellect. He stands with the kids in front of the class. You guys see the blackboard, the chalkboard? Yes. You see it because it exists. You guys see the door? Yes. The door exists. That's why you see it. You guys see this? You guys see? Yes, yes. You see Allah? They said no. He said he doesn't exist. Yadu billah. Doesn't exist. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires one of the students, stands up. Said, teacher, can I ask a question? Yes. So he looked at his classmates and he said, you guys see the teacher? Yes, because he exists. You guys see his arms? Yes, because they exist. You guys see the teacher's brain? No, it doesn't exist. He has no brain. That is the reality. How many things you don't see, but you got to believe. يؤمنون بالغيب. يؤمنون بالغيب. They believe in the unseen. Okay? If you can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His power and His strength and His magnificence in this universe and creation, you still have, you want to see God? To believe? طيب. The Jews asked for them. Musa asked for them. نور النار قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Light, how can I see him? When he went in the Mi'raj. So it's very important to understand that we're going to put the intellect only, or the habits and the customs. We're lost. We are lost. Look at the Arabs, or look at the Muslims in general. Someone says you're tough on the Arabs. Well, I got that privilege. Yeah, I'm one of them. Okay. يعني the Muslims today are so sensitive, so hypersensitive. Like we're Muslims. If I talk about certain behaviors in your country, or what the people you belong to, the race, why you get it? We're talking about general. So I decided to avoid all these things. I just talk about the Arabs. So when you come to me, I tell you I'm Arab. Okay? You got that privilege. You look at the Muslims, oh, the Arabs. Okay? You look at the Muslim states. You find them, they said, they use their intellect now, huh? Intelligence. Islam is backward. Huh? From the sea to the Gulf. Which sea am I talking about? Huh? The Atlantic, the ocean is the Atlantic. Khalid al-Arabi. Allah yaftah عليك. أيوة. اسمع, no Iranians here? You're gonna get upset now. The Persian Gulf. Names, يعني like we stuck with names. They said Islam doesn't work. We're in the 21st century now, or in, let's say the last century, 20th century. How can we or apply a religion or laws that were applied on camels and sheep? So they came up. They did not come up with anything. Actually, they imitate. Which animal imitates all the time? Monkeys. And that is what you see. You see each animal has its own character. Specific character. Huh? يعني ثعلب, fox, sneaky. People who like that, if you stare at them, they look like ثعلب, fox. People who imitate, they look like monkeys. They behave like monkeys. So you find a lot of the Muslims chose to imitate. لَتَتَّبِعَنَّ سُنَنَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ حَدْوَ الْقَدَّةِ بِالْقَدِّ. You will follow the laws or the behaviors of those who came before you. قالوا يا رسول الله اليهود والنصارى. صحابة يعني they understand it. وهي طائرة يعني. They understand it right away. The Jews and the Christians. The Jews and the Christians. And look what happened. Were the Sahaba following the Jews and the Christians? No, they weren't. So who is he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is talking to? Us. So they said, we're going to try other than Islam. Let's try communism. So Jamal Abdel Nasser brings the Shuyu'iyya, and he brings nationalism, and into the Muslim world. They brag about Harb Ramadan. What did you get in Harb Ramadan? You got your land back? What kind of, do you know? يعني the only battle that you find, and then you find the Jordanians about معركة الكرامة, and what are you telling them? We lost Palestine, and you're happy. The Jews did not even want Jordan, and did not want Egypt, and you're happy that you got them out? They got what they want. They wanted Al-Aqsa. They wanted Palestine. They got it. And you find the Arabs every year celebrating those battles they call, as they claim, where in the same battles they were shooting the Palestinians. They were killing Palestinians, the armies of these Muslim countries, killing the Mujahideen. But every year, celebrations, schools are off, this and that. They take you when you're a child, like student, they take you to visit the Al-Jundi al-Majhul, right? The monuments of the lost soldier, or whatever they call it. All these things, names of shuhada after shuhada. Right. You lost Palestine. You know that in Sina, the desert of Sinai, you as Muslim or Egyptian, you cannot go in there without permit. The Jews can go in and out, no restriction. And ask. I'm not making up this stuff. So what kind of victory did you make? You got them out of there. It's a desert. But they get whatever they want to do in there. But we numb ourselves. We're numb. So they tried communism, they tried socialism, they tried dictatorship, they're still trying that. They try capitalism, they try this. Nothing is working. They don't see it. Nothing is working. They get hammered and they get destroyed. And the Palestinians in Gaza are starving to death and diseases and this and that. After all these things, Lebanon get destroyed by the army, and then they brag that Hezbollah made a victory. Lebanon destroyed. Ala bukrati abiyad. All the infrastructure destroyed. The country is 100 years back. And you tell me you made a victory? How many people you killed? How many cities you destroyed? If victory is measured by these things, compared to how many people lost their lives, and the infrastructure destroyed, whole country. Numb. Qul al-Tufayli, who was the head of Hezbollah, Lamin al-Am li Hezbollah, before Hassan. This Hassan, there's a clip for him changing the ayat in the Quran. I'm sure some of you have seen. He was interviewed. He said Hezbollah was established to protect the northern borders of Israel. This is Al-Amin Al-Am of Hezbollah, the head of Hezbollah. He said it was established, Hezbollah, to protect the north borders of Israel. طيب, if Hezbollah is on that border, how many people who try to go inside, okay, they allow them. They actually imprison them and they execute them. So it's very important to understand the whole situation. And that is because we deviated from the Quran and the Sunnah. Once you do that, then there is no loyalty anymore to the Muslims. إِنَّ الْعِزَّةَ لِلَّهِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Your wali is Allah and His Messenger and the believers. But once you get away from that, you will take the kafir as wali over the believer. لا تتخذوا الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين. You're not allowed to do that. So again, we go back, whether it's secular system or its religious system not in accordance to the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is a failure. Is a failure. And that is what we need to understand. That's what Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah is saying. فَإِنَّهَا تَعُوقُ الْقَلْبَ عَنْ سَيْرِهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. These sins will put obstacles in front of the heart to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهِيَ ثَلَاثَةُ أُمُورٍ. Very quick. Three things. These obstacles, one of these three. Shirk, وَبِدْعَةٌ وَمَعْصِيَةٌ. Either shirk, these sins. Either shirk or innovation or sin. Like major sin or minor sin. That's it. These are obstacles that the shaitan will put in front of your heart not to be able to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just to finish, وَأَمَّا الْعَلَائِقْ فهي كل ما تعلق به القلب دون الله ورسوله من ملاذ الدنيا وشهواتها ورئاستها وصحبة الناس والتعلق بهم ولا سبيل له إلى قطع هذه الأمور الثلاث رفضها إلا بقوة التعلق بالمطلب الأعلى. العوالق, the thing that gets stuck in your heart from the shahwa, the love of the dunya, the love of leadership, the love of authority, the love of people, the company of people, all these things get stuck to your heart, where your heart's supposed to be stuck to the first goal, to the main goal. That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِلَّا فَقَطْعُهَا عَلَيْهِ بِدُونِ تَعَلُّقِهِ بِمَطْلُوبِهِ مُمْتَنٍ. So he's saying, how can I connect my heart to Allah if these things attach to it? He's saying, pay attention to this. He's saying there is no way to convince the heart to attach itself completely to Allah and disconnect from these residuals or precipitants or stuck things to your heart without establishing full love between the heart and Allah. Yani, the heart, okay, is, a lot of the brothers who work in haram, something haram. You come to him, you say, it's haram, leave it. Because of the lack of the true tawakkul ala Allah and the lack of the understanding of how Allah provides, he tells you, how am I going to take care of my responsibility? Okay. If you come to him another day, tell him, listen, leave this and I have a job for you. If he's someone who really wants to get out of the haram, right away. Right? If the new job will bring him the same money, or maybe a little less or whatever, he will leave it. So unless you give him an alternative, there is no way, it's very hard to take him away from it. So a heart that these things attach to, the desire and the shahwa, the ladda, the suhba, this and that, you cannot tell him, cut off all these things and connect to Allah, because there is not enough love yet in his heart for Allah. He still does not understand the value and the worth of getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فإن النفس لا تترك مألوفها ومحبوبها إلا لمحبوب هو أحب إليها منه آثر عندها منه. Because the nafs will not leave something it's already familiar with, it's already loving, to something else, unless this something else becomes more beloved to it. And that is what we want to do. If you see that from the beginning of Ramadan I'm talking about these al-qulub and all that, this is the key to change. If we can get our heart straight with Allah, everything else falls into place. But as long as we're away, even if you see, a lot of us think salah, siyam, zakah, physical, hajj, if you have money, this and that, that's ibadah. That is part of ibadah, but that is not the ibadah, all of it. You can do all these things and your heart is absent. What's the point? When we say إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ قَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, sound heart. Your heart ghafil and you're in the salah. You don't taste it. Your heart is heedless and you're in the hajj. Wallahi, there are scenes you see in hajj, if your heart is a metal, will soften. Yet our heart's still hard. This last hajj, there was a brother from Afghanistan. He came from Afghanistan to Mecca for hajj on a bicycle. On a bicycle. انت من السعودية؟ يا أخي they're حجاج. some people who come from the Russian states Huh? The bus, they divide half of the bus, the top half, they put like a board, and they put their stuff in it, and they sit underneath. From Russia to Mecca, we go from North Miami Beach to South Miami Beach, if there's something like that. And if the car is not comfortable and there's no aram and no ihtiram, it's you're trouble. Huh? Like the Afghanis, they say, you sit in the front, it's ihtiram. You sit in the back, it's aram. Aram يعني راحة. Huh? Or the bullet. These Afghanis are tough. If you eat or the bullet. That's what he told you. You know, they sacrifice. يعني when we we were in Medina, then we went to Mecca in the time of Al-Hajj, before the Hajj day or two. The buses on the borders of Mecca. And there you need to have permits. You have to have the permits to do Hajj. A lot of the people don't have these permits. Either they live in there, either they came for Umrah and they stayed until Hajj. Huh? So you find once the bus stops or the cab stops or this and that or a motorcycle or whatever, and with all due respect to our brothers in Saudi, they are crazy drivers. The way they drive, oh my God. I understand why women are not allowed to drive there. Yeah, any accidents will be right and left. They will run out of women if they let them drive. Because I don't think women can drive that way. So the point is, once these things, vehicle stops at the borders, you find a lot of people. Now you're sitting in the bus because you got the permit, you're waiting for them to, of course that takes a few hours. You find people jumping off the buses, out of the cabs, and start going into the mountains. Because you have it's the desert, Mecca wa'ira. You have the mountains, it's very rugged. So the streets is in the middle of the desert, and then mountains on the right, mountains on the left. You find people start going into the mountains. What they're doing? They're going around the borders. And sometimes they have the deal that you meet us after. Yeah. You find him, he's wearing the ihram because he has to make ihram from Medina, Abar Ali. He's making ihram and he's jumping in the middle of okay? Love. The love make you do that. No love, fine. Why are you going to do that? If you love your bed more than Allah, why are you going to wake up for Fajr? There's no way. And look at work. We love work more than Allah. If your most probably you will go. You will make it. Allah, your Creator, does not deserve that you do that. So that's where the detachment of all these precipitants and residuals to the heart, get rid of it. To get rid of it, to convince your heart to do it, you have to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to make the love of Allah takes over shirafu qalbik, takes over your whole heart. So he said, وَكُلَّمَا قَوْيَ تَعَلُّقُهُ بِمَطْلُبِهِ ضَعُفَ تَعَلُّقُهُ بِغَيْرِهِ. The stronger he gets his attachment to his Creator, or with the one he's seeking, Allah, the weaker the bonds between those residues to his heart. So the weaker the bonds, the easier. Stronger with Allah, the weaker and the opposite. The more you're attached to these things, the less you will be attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah refused anyone to share the heart of his slave. Allah refuses for anyone or anything to share the hearts of his slave with him. وهو أغنى الأغنياء عن الشرك. ولكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.